The Key Stage 2 computing curriculum tells us that we need to teach children about repetition in coding. So that's what this little video is all about. Repetition means doing something again and again and again, repeating it. And simple examples in everyday life that we can think of are a clock. The clock goes around and around and around. It is 12 o'clock lunchtime one day, it is 12 o'clock lunchtime the next day, and so on. We repeat the structure of our days. And that's quite a simple example to talk to children about, which they should all understand. We can also talk about how we repeat days in the structure of a calendar. So, for example, we'll repeat coming to school 5 times in a week, and then we'll repeat having a weekend day twice, and then we go over it all again and do another week. So repetition as a concept is pretty straightforward, and I think most children are used to it. When it comes to telling computers how to do it, it's again a fairly straightforward business once you know how. So here I've got a flowchart which is some instructions just to keep saying hello every second. So as you can see at the top here, we've got a box that says say hello. We follow the arrow from it. It tells us to wait for 1 second, and then the only arrow coming out of that box tells us to go back and say hello again. So we end up going around and around in a loop. And that's something that you might hear people talking about when they talk about repetition in algorithms and in computing. It's doing something again, it's going around and around in a loop. So this one here, say hello, wait for 1 second, say hello. Now into code, this is pretty straightforward to do. You can, looking at the code here for it, you can see we've got a timer. So in this case, I'm using a timer block to do the repeat, and I'm using the timer with the every setting in here. As you can see, I could have told a timer to wait 1 second and then do something, but I want it to do it every 1 second. And the thing I want it to do is tucked inside. It's controlled by the timer here, and it's print to screen hello. So if I click the play button here, we'll see what it does. So over here on the left, you can see it prints the word hello onto the screen every second. Notice how it flashes the print hello code over here in orange on the right every time that code is being run as well. So the nice thing about the timer is that we can control the gap. If I wanted to make it say hello every 3 seconds, I can simply change the number to 3 here, and it will wait 3 seconds before it says hello. So we get that control over the gap, if you like. Let's press stop. Let's take a look at another piece of another way of doing things here. Imagine we wanted to put a limit on it, because this code here, it's just going to carry on saying hello every 3 seconds forever. It doesn't know when to stop, and we can see that by coming back here. We're just always stuck in this loop here on the flowchart, aren't we? There's no way of breaking out of this cycle. So if we wanted to say hello 5 times, we'd have a start instruction, and from there I'm just going to try to, let's just join that onto the say hello onto the screen. So we say hello to the screen, but we only want to do it 5 times, so now we need to have a check. So I'm just going to drag a little line down here to my, done that 5 times? Well, from here I want to have a yes and a no line. So if my answer is no, I want to come back up here and print to the screen hello again. So let's just see if I can tidy this up a little bit, make it look a bit neater. There we go. So there's my no line. So I just need to put the text on there to say no. And if we have done it 5 times, then we're going to say that that is the end. And I'll put a little bit of text here to say yes. I could add colour to this flowchart if I want to, just by clicking on the different objects, clicking on the paint bucket at the top, like so, and then choose a colour and apply. And you can see how that could be made a little bit visually clearer, perhaps. But what does this look like in code? Well, if you watched the video on selection last week, you'll know that when we have these boxes where there's a choice in a flowchart, when we need to make a decision or make a selection, that involves an if box. So, but that's all kind of wrapped up neatly into this repeat 5 times box that we've got here. So although the flowchart suggests that we might need an if box, the counting and the checking of whether we've done it 5 times when it comes to code is actually all done inside this repeat 5 times box. And we find the repeat 5 times. It's over here in the control sections in free code, or if you're doing this within one of the 2Code activities, it will be available in the left-hand side by default. So we just drag the repeat box in here and tell it how many times we want it to do whatever is in the box below it. So in the case, I've just pulled that box out and I've pulled a print to screen and typed hello in it. And when I click play, notice how quickly it actually does it. Did you see that? It was done in a flash, wasn't it? There's no control over the gap this time. So unlike the timer, where we are able to control the gap between the repeats, on this time we can't, and it's just going to do it in a flash. So just watch again in a flash, really, really quick. But we do have the control over the number of times that it's repeated. Another example. We can use a repeat until box. So rather than the repeat box, we have the repeat until box, which we find here. I'll drag this out like so, and it says repeat until something, and then either equals, does not equal, is greater or less than. So we've got different sort of mathematical checks there, but ultimately it's comparing things. This could be comparing a number, or it could be comparing a word. So we could say repeat until a word equals monkey or dog or something like that. And then it would stop the repeat. In this case, what I've got here is I've created a variable, which we'll look at in another one of these videos. So I've created a variable, which is a number, and it's set to 0. So my score starts at 0. But then inside the repeat loop, which I've got here, you can see that it's saying repeat until the score equals 5. And then every time it comes around the loop, every time it does this instruction, it adds 1 on to the score, and then it prints hello and whatever the score number is. We're going to look at variables, as I've said, in another video, so don't worry too much about this score add 1 or the create number equals score. Just be having a look at how, as long as you understand that the score is going up by 1 each time it goes around the loop, and that when it gets to 5, the loop will end. So let's press play on this. It'll go very quickly again. You see it went super quick here. Hello 1, hello 2, hello 3, hello 4, hello 5. And it's very quick. We've not got any control over the gap on it. However, something that I've seen children do a lot with this is the order at which we have the instructions inside the repeat loop makes a big difference. Because if we follow this through, we begin by having a number. The score is 0. And then the first thing we do is we add 1 onto it, which makes the score 1, and then we print the score out. So the first score that appears on the screen is 1. If we did these the other way around, if I put the print first, then it's going to start the score as 0. It's going to print hello plus the score to the screen while the score is still 0, and then it's going to add 1. So if we look over on the left now, you can see my numbers have gone hello 0, hello 1, hello 2, hello 3, hello 4. It never reached the hello 5 that I perhaps expected it to. And that's really just down to the sequencing inside the loop. Do we add 1 onto our variable that's controlling the loop and deciding when the loop breaks? Do we add it on before we do the print or after? Makes all the difference. 0 to 4 or 1 to 5. And I've seen children sort of struggle with that idea a few times, so I thought I'd just mention that here. The TikTok challenge is probably a good example of how repeats get used quite early on in 2Code. So what we begin with is a grandfather clock in design mode here, which you can see. And our challenge is to make this clock tick. So the first thing it's telling us to do is to start the clock. So we drag clock in here and we just click start. And if I play this now, it will basically set the pendulum swinging on the clock. We haven't got any ticking to go with it though. So we need to press stop at the top here and sort the time out. So make a timer, use the timer to make it tick every second. So we just pull the timer out, and then you see we've got options here. It's saying timer after 1 second, and we can click on any of these buttons here after timer to change them. So we could have after 1 second or every 1 second. We want something to happen over and over again every single second. So it's set up correctly now, the timer is. What do we want to happen? Well, we want it to make the ticking sound. As soon as I click on this tick here, though, it will start ticking. But let's do that and press play and watch it. I hope you noticed how the code line that was running every second was flashing in orange. Just watch that again. Notice the tick line flashes every second so we can see what control is happening. Now the next challenge is telling us to add a bell that rings every 5 seconds. So this is a separate timer event. On the one hand, we've got something that we want to happen every second. So that's being controlled by this timer, which makes things happen every 1 second. But to have something happening every 5 seconds, we couldn't do that in here, so we need to have a separate timer block. So I can pull the timer block out here, and notice I'm making it separate. I'm not tucking it inside here, which is something that children will often do, just by accident, really. So in here, we're going to say, again, tell it to do something every, and we're going to increase that to every 5 seconds. And we want our sound to be the bell. So again, let's just watch this happen and just watch the orange lines as they make the sounds as the code runs. Common mistakes that you'll see children making with these are usually around the selection of every or after. So just be mindful of that while you're teaching children. Encourage them to really have that attention to detail whilst they're looking and setting up their timers. Let's go on to the next challenge, shall we? I need to play this again, and then we'll see what it's got in store for the next stage. So our next stage here is saying, make it so the clock plays another bell sound, a second after the bell that rings every 5 seconds. So let's just think about this for a moment. So I've got my timer ticking every second to make the tick. Well, that's nothing to do with the bell, so I don't have to worry about this bit up here because they're not connected. So I need to be thinking this second sound. So how do I put that in? How is that going to work? Well, make it so the clock plays another bell sound a second after the bell that rings every 5 seconds. So really, it all depends on the bell that rings every 5 seconds. That's my cue. That's the lead, isn't it, for it? That's my cue. So when that bell rings, I've got to start waiting another second and then ring it again. So what we can do is, in here, I need this extra timer, and I'm just going to pop it down here for the moment. And it's come up quite helpfully by default saying after 1 second. So this timer is waiting a second, and then it's going to make something happen inside this box. So I could I'll do that in a moment because otherwise it'll get noisy. But if I leave this timer here, it's not going to work. Remember, I need my timer here to be controlled by the other timer. It's starting to get a little bit complex, isn't it now? So the timer waits, and every 5 second timer, it waits 5 seconds, rings the bell once, and starts another timer to wait a second, which is then going to ring the bell again. So the process for this timer is every 5 seconds, ring the bell, wait another second, and ring the bell again. Okay, so let's pop that in there. Again, every 5 seconds, ring the bell, wait another second, and ring the bell again. Just trying to turn that code into everyday, sort of plain and simple English. Let's press play and see if it works. It should do. Well, I hope that's helped to introduce the idea of repetition to you and see the various ways that we can achieve repetition and some of the pros and cons of them within 2Code. As I say, we'll be doing another video which introduces more complexity into it, the kind of complexity that you would see in Upper Key Stage 2, and we'll do that in a few weeks' time. Thanks very much for watching. Bye-bye.